In my view, this issue of oligarchy is the most important issue facing our country and the world. Oligarchy is a global phenomenon, and it is headquartered right here in the United States. The fact of the matter is, and we don't talk about it very much, but this is the reality, a small number of incredibly wealthy billionaires own and control much of the global economy, period. End of discussion. And increasingly, they own and control our government through a corrupt campaign finance system. Since 2020, 5 billion people all over the world have become poorer, while the world's 5 richest billionaires have more than doubled their fortunes at a rate of $14 million per hour. And listen to this. Elon Musk, the world's wealthiest man, has added 120 billion to his fortune just since election day. Got that? 120 billion since election day. While Jeff Bezos, number 2 guy, he only became $67 billion richer in the last month. Outrageously, the wealthiest people in the world are stashing up to 32 trillion in offshore tax havens like the Cayman Islands in order to avoid paying their fair share of taxes to governments all over the world. In other words, governments are underfunded, and these people stash trillions in tax havens. Meanwhile, the uber rich do spend money to protect their incredible wealth. They do it by buying influence, and increasingly by buying our elections. Just 150 billionaire families spent nearly $2 billion to buy our recent elections. Elon Musk alone spent at least $277 million to back Donald Trump. How's that? One guy, $277 million. And we saw the results of that investment working pretty good for him. The major defense contractors spent over $38 million this election cycle. And you know what? They're going to have $1 trillion military budget with enormous amounts of waste and fraud in it. This is not democracy. This is not one person, one vote. This is not all of us coming together to decide our future. This is oligarchy.
Hey guys, welcome back to Historical Africa. Today we are diving into a topic that gets talked about a lot online, in classrooms, and in political discussions. Is America becoming an oligarchy? Or in simpler terms, do a small number of wealthy and powerful people control most of the country? Let's break it down, what that means, how it works, and why so many experts are talking about it. Watch and pay attention, and I will share my thought later.
My friends, what we are looking at here has nothing to do with democracy. What we are looking at here is oligarchy. Not a whole lot of people in a nation of 340 million who have an unprecedented amount of wealth and power and have never, ever had it so good. That's one America. The other America, where the vast majority of our people live, consists of tens of millions of families who are struggling to put food on the table, pay their bills, and worry that their kids will have a lower standard of living than they do. In the first America, the uber wealthy buy $500 million yachts, $270 million mansions. They have private islands all to themselves. They got fleets of jets to take them all over the world. And occasionally they take cool trips on rocket ships that blast off to the edge of outer space. A lot of fun. They also receive the best healthcare money can buy, and they send their kids to the very best private schools and colleges in the world. In this America, the 3 wealthiest men, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, own more wealth than the bottom half of our society. 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of our society. And their wealth is skyrocketing. Musk alone is now worth over $150 billion. And combined, these three men are now worth almost $1 trillion. In the other America, millions of Americans are struggling just to provide for the basic necessities of life. In this America, over 60% of our people live paycheck to paycheck. Millions work for starvation wages. 85 million are uninsured or underinsured, and over 60,000 die each year because they can't afford to go to a doctor on time. In other words, we are living in a nation today where a handful of billionaires have more money than they could spend in 1,000 lifetimes, while at the same time, millions are living in desperation, fear, and are struggling to survive. But let's be clear. Our country is not just experiencing an unprecedented level of income and wealth inequality. Today, the ruling elite have brought about a situation in which we now have more concentration of ownership than we have ever had before. In other words, a small number of giant corporations have enormous control over our economy in sector after sector: healthcare, agriculture, financial services, energy, transportation, you name it. A small number of giant conglomerates control what is produced and how much we as consumers pay for their products. Hello, everybody. As I am sure you have heard, there is a lot that's going on here in Washington, D.C. So let me say a few words and try to explain it. Bottom line, after all is said and done, is that after months of negotiations, Senate Democrats and House Republicans reached an agreement called a continuing resolution, which would continue to fund the government for 3 months. Frankly, that agreement was not something that I was all that excited about, but it was better than nothing. And I was prepared and am prepared to vote for it. And one of the reasons is that it contained a reasonable increase in funding for primary health care, something that I feel very strongly about and that my committee, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, is responsible for. And given the enormous crises that we're facing in healthcare in this country today, it really would be of help to many millions of Americans. What this legislation would do is significantly, or modestly at least, increase funding for community health centers all over this country, which treat about 30 million Americans who are low income or working class. And it would also increase the number of young doctors who go out into rural America and also into underserved areas. That is where we need the doctors and the nurses, and that's what this legislation would do. In any case, within the House of Representatives, the Republican House, and the Democratic Senate, there was widespread agreement on this resolution, and it was just about ready to be passed. In fact, the Republicans posted it on their website. We were ready to go. But then, out of nowhere, the wealthiest man in the world, Elon Musk, began tweeting his opposition to this legislation. In fact, he was very blunt about it. He told Republicans that if they voted for this proposal, which they had already agreed to do, he would take out his wallet and spend as much money as it took to defeat them in primaries and drive them out of office. You got that? Take a deep breath and appreciate what's going on here. The wealthiest person in the world, who spent at least $277 million to elect Donald Trump in a Republican Congress, has now claimed complete ownership of that party. And what he is saying is, hey, Republicans, forget your constituents, forget your constitutional responsibilities. If you don't do what I, Elon Musk, want you to do, you're out of office. And I have the money to do just that. My friends, what we are looking at here has nothing to do with democracy. What we are looking at here is oligarchy. This is up and up. Government by the billionaire class for the billionaire class. And by the way, Musk is not only trying to intimidate Republicans, he is trying to inject himself into the Democratic Party as well. He is threatening to target Democrats who are standing up to him and his agenda. Further, and very dangerously, and this is the guy you know who owns Twitter, as part of his campaign to defeat this resolution, Musk has been spreading an enormous amount of disinformation and outright lies about what is in the bill. He said that the measure would include a 40% pay raise for Congress. That's a lie. It is a 3.9% increase, the same as federal employees are receiving. He said that this legislation would fund bioweapons labs. Not true. In fact, it provides funds to protect Americans from emerging infectious diseases. He said that the country would be just fine if the government shut down. Really? Here's what happens if Mr. Musk gets his way and the deal implodes. Funding for kids' cancer research gets cut. At a time when we are already paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, pharmaceutical middlemen will be able to continue to overcharge you for your prescriptions. Americans recovering from devastating floods, fires, and hurricanes, often due to climate change, won't get the help that they need. That's what happens if the proposal goes down. And what happens if the government shuts down? Well, our troops won't get their paychecks. Nearly 7 million women and children who rely on WIC nutrition assistance could go hungry. And 2 million federal government workers, some of whom don't make a whole lot of money, won't be getting paid. Now let us be very clear. Elon Musk was not elected to be president of the United States. In fact, he was not elected to be dog catcher. And by the way, what all of this hoopla is really about, above and beyond everything I'm talking about, is that when Trump and Musk come into power in late January, do you know what their first order of business will be? You think it'll be to fix healthcare? You think it'll be deal with climate change? Deal with homelessness? Well, if you thought that, you're dead wrong. Their first order of business will be to provide massive tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations. So think about it. At a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, when Musk himself is worth almost $500 billion, what these guys want to do is give more tax breaks to billionaires and the heads of large corporations. So where do we go from here? Let us understand the gravity of what we are dealing with. This is not politics as usual. This is not just Democrats versus Republicans, conservatives versus liberals or progressives. It's much deeper than that. What we are dealing with right now is that the billionaire class, which owns so much of our economy, which owns so much of our media, they are now moving aggressively to own our political system as well. So we got a lot of work in front of us. We've got to educate. We've got to organize.
Let's start with the definition. An oligarchy is a system where a small group of people hold most of the power, especially economic and political power. This group can be wealthy families, corporate leaders, financial elites, political insider, or a mix of all of the above. It does not mean elections disappear. It means dictatorship. It means the influence is concentrated at the top. One major reason people say America is becoming an oligarchy is the massive gap between the richest Americans and everyone else. For example, a tiny percentage of people hold a huge amount of the nation's wealth. that wealth gives them: more influence in politics, more control over businesses, more say in laws and regulations, more access to decision makers. When money equals power, the people with the most money often have the most control. Another key part of the conversation is corporate power. Large companies' influence. What gets advertised, what news gets covered, how laws are shaped, the job market, technology and data, even the cost of basic things like healthcare and housing. When companies become larger than entire countries' economies, people start wondering who really owns the power. This does not mean corporates are bad, it just means they have enormous influence, and that raises questions about democracy. But critics argue that wealthy organizations have more access, more money, more influence, and more control over what laws get passed. This creates the feeling that regular people and small communities do not have the same voice. Another factor is political campaign funding. Winning election in the US is extremely expensive, so candidates often rely on wealthy donors, corporations, political action committees, private networks. This raises questions like, do politicians represent the people or the donors? Again, this does not mean corruption, it means influence, and influence is not even distributed. Many scholars, researchers, and economists say the US shows signs of becoming an oligarchy. They point to concentrated wealth, concentrated power, decreasing social mobility, limited economic inequality, political influence tied to wealth. Others argue the US still has strong democratic institutions and checks and balance. So the debate is ongoing. When a small group hold most of the power, it can affect everyday life in ways you might not notice. Things like the cost of college, healthcare prices, wages, housing, the job market, access to opportunities, even what shows up on your social media feed. All of these can be shaped by powerful institutions at the top. Whether you think America is an oligarchy or might be heading towards one, the important thing is understanding how power works. Know who controls resources, money, and decision-making help people understand the system they live in. It also helps people push for changes if they want them through voting, activism, education, and simply staying informed. So that is the big question. Is America still a democracy with strong institutions, or is it slowly becoming an oligarchy dominated by wealth and power? Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comment box below. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.